Heats all Leafs at NHL draft this time. Dallas when Rasmus Dahlin walked across the stage as the number 1 overall pick of the NHL draft on Friday night. The 18-year-old defenseman counted himself in rare company. In the 55 years since the NHL instituted its amateur draft, Dahlin was just the second Swede to be taken first overall. So, no pressure. The only other wearer of the Tre Kronor deemed worthy of the top pick was Mats Sundin, and he only made it to the Hall of Fame. Still, as rare as Dahlin's talent appears to be, no less than Nick Lidstrom, the greatest of Swedish defensemen, has compared Dahlin to a Hall of Famer named Brian Leetch. His arrival has a familiar feeling. Long expected to be the choice of the No. 1 picking Buffalo Sabres, who haven't won a playoff game in 11 years, Dahlin is another in a line of teenagers being heralded as a savior for a wayward franchise. It's a tough ask, to be sure. Even Connor McDavid, number 1 pick in 2015 and the 2-time reigning winner of the Ted Lindsay Award as the game's most outstanding player as chosen by his peers, has only delivered 1 trip to the postseason in 3 seasons in Edmonton. Still, as fans of the Toronto Maple Leafs can tell you, it's difficult to find truly elite talent without the benefit of a number 1 overall pick. The Maple Leafs had been looking in vain for a number 1 centreman ever since Sundin left town in 2008. It wasn't until they drafted Auston Matthews, Toronto's number 1 selection in 2016, that they found one. It goes without saying that Matthews has been a huge reason for the Leafs' presence in the playoffs in 2 straight seasons since his arrival. Matthews, of course, isn't the only reason for Toronto's renaissance. Team president Brendan Shanahan deserves plenty of the credit for setting in motion a series of events that has led to a promising assemblage of talent that seems, even for the historically star-crossed Leafs, almost too good to screw up. It's almost hard to fathom that it was just 5 years ago that the Maple Leafs counted themselves as one of the league's biggest messes. They'd made the playoffs for the first time in 9 years, sure. But they'd also suffered through the collapse on Causeway Street. The club was led by a miscast captain in Dion Phaneuf and a reluctant top player in Phil Kessel. A teardown, some heady drafting and ultimately the lottery win that brought Matthews, were all required to undo the mess. Now the mess is elsewhere. Now the mess is in Montreal. Less than 3 years after being rewarded with a 6-year contract extension, General Manager Marc Bergevin is a beleaguered executive scrambling to recover from a series of widely panned trades that have seen the likes of PK Subban, Mikhail Sergachev, and Alex Galchenyuk leave town for questionable returns. With 30-year-old Carey Price preparing to begin drawing form an 8-year contract worth $84 million US in the wake of a season that saw him put up a .900 save percentage, this week Bergevin seemed to acknowledge the possibility that his professional leash is shortening. "I have to look at the long term of the Montreal Canadiens regardless if I'm here or not," Bergevin told reporters. Now the mess is in Edmonton. 3 years since McDavid became the Oilers' 4th number 1 overall pick in a 6-year span, fans of the once proud franchise just watched one of those top selections, Taylor Hall, win the Hart Trophy for the New Jersey Devils. GM Peter Chiarelli can count Hall's 2016 shipment in exchange for defenseman Adam Larsson among a long list of lamentable moves that have left him in desperate search of solutions to difficult problems. Good luck dumping the 5 years remaining on Milan Lucic's contract at an annual average value of $6 million. Now the mess of all messes is in Ottawa. There isn't a more pitiable figure in Canadian pro sports than Pierre Dorion. On Thursday, on account of his current employment with the most exasperating owner in the game, Eugene Melnyk, Dorion presumably felt forced to stand in front of a group of reporters and insist that the Senators will be better next season. He was saying this after trading Mike Hoffman, Ottawa's top goal scorer when you combine the past 5 seasons, for pennies on the dollar. He was saying this while Erik Karlsson, the 2-time Norris Trophy-winning defenseman and one of the league's preeminent talents, is widely assumed to be destined for another team via trade. He was saying this before news broke that Craig Anderson, the team's veteran goaltender, has expressed his interest in moving on from the train wreck. But what else could Dorion say? In attendance challenged Ottawa, where Melnyk spent a memorable afternoon in December threatening to relocate the team if fans don't show up. Rebuild is a dirty word. Maple Leaf fans have long expressed their gratitude that Brendan Shanahan had the foresight to understand that Toronto's hockey-loving populace would happily accept an intelligent remaking of the franchise core. With so many promising pieces already in place, and with Toronto holding the number 25 pick, Friday's draft didn't come attached with particularly high stakes for rookie GM Kyle Dubas. The real pressure was on the likes of Bergevin, Chiarelli, and Dorion. The real pressure, when play resumes in October, will be on Dahlin. Being number one comes with its burdens and its gifts. The Sabres can only hope the weight of the former doesn't lay waste to the latter.